Hello and a very warm welcome to Political Economy with Shweta Punj. Well, India is at the moment grappling with what could come out in the April meeting or from the April meeting on tariffs from the United States of America. Prime Minister Modi and President Donald Trump met recently, and one of the key things that emerged out of those talks is the threat of reciprocal tariffs. President Trump has not held back as he has spoken about India being a tariff abuser, and he has constantly singled out India for its tariff policies. Why is it a concern for us? It is a concern for us because the United States is India's largest trading partner. So, to make sense of the conversation, the meeting that has happened between the two big leaders so far, and its implications in India, and what does it mean? What would it really mean for India if the threat of reciprocal tariffs is actually implemented? I have with me head of a think tank based out of New Delhi called GTRI, and Mr. Ajay Srivastava has been with the government in the past, and now he makes sense of a lot of these policies for us. Mr. Srivastava, thank you so much for joining us. First thing I want to ask you, have you ever heard any president or any leader of a country single out another country the way it's happened with India, where President Donald Trump is concerned?
It's really, it doesn't happen almost every day because India doesn't have the highest trade deficit with the US. India is at the ninth or 10th position. That's why it's very strange that Mr. Trump, I think he has some kind of love or obsession with India. In the past 4 or 5 years, he has taken India's name in a negative way as a tariff abuser, tariff king, many
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
And he doesn't back it up with the data. The data he uses is not correct. For example, he says Harley Davidson we charge 100% tariffs. Now we charge just 30% tariffs on this. He says India's trade deficit with the US is $100 billion. It's 41, $42 billion. That's it. So he doesn't get it data also correct. But he of course has probably love with India. That's why he keeps on using these things.
And he's misquoting, he's not putting out the right numbers, he's portraying a
Yes.
false picture.
Yes.
So, so when President Trump and Prime Minister Modi met last week, after that, President Trump has not held back on the bit about reciprocal tariffs. So, and since then, we've seen the U.S. impose tariffs on steel and aluminium, and in fact, there was an interview that President Donald Trump gave to a U.S. media house where he said that it'll be sad if Elon Musk decides to open a Tesla factory in India. So clearly, there's a lot of we are looking at a very protectionist world with heightened tariff barriers and trade barriers. So I want to understand the implications of that for India, considering the US is India's largest trading partner. And how much can India? I mean, how much room does India have to negotiate on this? One, and secondly, what, according to you, what are the implications of the reciprocal tariffs if they are announced on India?
So first is reciprocal tariff is they are not targeting India alone. US
Yeah.
will be targeting all the countries with which they have the trade deficits. So India will not be alone. That's point number one. Second, reciprocal tariffs, they violate the WTO rules. The world trade happens as per the rules of the WTO, and our tariffs are fully in conformation with the WTO rules, while any new tariffs by the US, be it on steel, aluminum, or reciprocal tariff, they are in complete violation of the WTO rules. Having said this, we have to deal with this because US is our largest trade partner, and we have a good amount of trade with exceeding $180 billion last year. So how to deal with this? At this point, most of what people are saying, or I will even be saying, will be a guesswork because even the Trump administration is not clear how they are going to impose it. and
Hmm.
they are going to impose one tariff on one country, for example, India 10% or 20%, or they say agriculture 30%, industry 10%, or they want to say fruits 5% and Harley Davidson 20%. They are themselves not clear. So impact will be
Hmm.
different from different level, but we are doing analysis at the tariff line level. And at the tariff line level, it will not be effective. For example, US exports oranges to us. We
Hmm.
impose 50% tariffs on oranges.
Hmm.
And US says, okay, you put 50% tariff, I'll also put 50% tariffs on oranges from India. So we say,
Hmm.
okay, do it happily. We don't export oranges to you. So this tariff line plan, which we call it reciprocal tariff, will fail. So
Hmm.
next option is he will be going at the product sector level. For example, he may target the garment sector, or he may say textile and garment together. Or
Hmm.
if he wants to even blunt the hammer, he may say all industrial goods as one
Hmm.
tariff for one country. So he may talk about two tariffs, one for agriculture products and the for industrial goods. Or he may talk
Hmm.
about sectoral tariffs on automotive, agriculture, and
Hmm.
chemicals, pharmaceuticals, gems and jewelry, and like this, and so on. So we have calculated impact on each of these, but talking about this is premature because nobody knows what they are going to do. And as far as
Hmm.
reacting, how should we react? I think we have to wait. We have to wait as soon as they take action. We have to take time. It's not a physical aggression, it's not a war, it's just trade. So the moment they apply, let's wait, coolly decide, take months, and then reply in equal measures to them.
Hmm.
Wherever we
Okay.
can adjust, we'll
So you're
adjust.
saying that the export profile of two countries is very different. So even if they do decide to levy reciprocal tariffs, the impact reciprocal tariffs in literally it means that if we are putting a tariff on oranges, they will put the same on oranges. However, they might not end up doing that. They might not end up doing that because the trade profile is very different for both the countries at the moment.
Yes.
Okay. So, you know, in terms of how to deal with Mr. Trump, what are the levers that India has? Because Mr. Trump has constantly spoken about, Harley Davidson bikes and so on, and we've reduced duties on bikes. We did that even in this budget. Uh, According to you, in terms of trade, what are the areas or what are the industries where we can, reduce tariffs to placate Donald Trump and ensuring that it does not impact, it does not hit home very hard.
So two ways are there to look at this. One is like he is always saying that US goods they face higher tariffs. So let's
Hmm.
focus on what US sends to India and try to see if we can cut tariffs on there. But what US sends to India, we have to see. And I thought I'm reading a wrong list, but it is like this. For example, the highest export of US is crude petroleum oil and petroleum products. Then we
Hmm.
import a lot of coal,
Okay.
LNG from there,
Hmm.
waste and scrap. And such
Hmm.
items they account for 50% of US exports to India. Our
All right.
tariffs our tariffs are less than 5, average tariffs are less than 5% on these. So the all the big talk of high tariffs, all those things, it's not rooted in, there is no evidence for this. So I
Hmm.
say when we look at tariff product by product, then we did an exercise and
Hmm.
we we looked at tariffs at the each of the top products. So top 100 products from US, they account for total 75% of their exports to India. And average tariffs is less than 5% on this.
So
So
75% of the products coming into India from the US have less than 5% tariffs.
average tariff.
Wow.
So all this
Okay.
talk, he will what he will do is to dramatize things. He will say Harley Davidson 100% tariffs. Of course, that was wrong.
Mhm.
It's 30% now, and
Right.
he will say our whiskeys you charge 150% and we charge 7%. Why not we charge? So of course he is correct here. We charge 150% on whiskey, but that's outlier product. Every country has some products where highest tariffs are there. For example, India charges highest tariffs on wines, alcohol, whiskeys, 150%. But US, their highest tariff is higher than India's highest tariff. On tobacco, they charge 350%.
Oh.
Japan's high, yeah, and they talk about this. So he will pick and choose, but he will. It's like somebody is abusing you and running away. If somebody
Mm.
waits for the answer, then we have
Mhm.
all the answers for whatever he says.
So how do you see the negotiations going on between India and the US, Mr. Srivastav? Do you think the Indian side will be able to convince the American side on this when they sit on the negotiating table?
Of course, why not? At least we should say, please tell me how you are calculating $100 billion deficit. This is 41
Hmm.
as per our data, and how you are
Hmm.
saying it's 100% Harley Davidson. It is 30%. How you are
Hmm.
saying this? And then when error is happening at this big numbers, what will
Hmm.
happen at the sectoral level? So we
Absolutely.
have to be very, very careful, and we have to. I mean, negotiating teams have to be very much thorough with all these things at the deep
Hmm.
level.
So, dairy is a contentious sector because the US has been pushing for India to lower tariffs and they want a slice of the dairy market. Do you see scope there, Mr. Srivastav?
No, we should not open dairy for US or Europe or anyone, because
Hmm.
agriculture and dairy is our livelihood issue. We don't treat it as a trade issue
Hmm.
for us.
Hmm.
We should never
Sure.
think about this. Of
Hmm.
course, if you want to entertain some thoughts, we can say some expensive cheese can be allowed, but otherwise, overall, I am totally against. It's not a trade issue for us.
Hmm.
Millions of people, and crores of people are dependent on our dairy farming and agriculture.
Hmm.
So there should be no thinking of giving any leeway on these sectors.
Hmm. Okay.
If
How about,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
please
please.
go on.
Then
No, no,
it's all
I was
right.
asking, yeah, I was asking you about electric vehicles. Mr. Musk, and we've been with Mr. Musk. He had a meeting. Supposedly, he had a meeting with the Prime Minister some time ago, but then that meeting got cancelled or postponed or whatever. Then they met again in the US this time around, and immediately after that meeting, there's talk about Tesla coming into India and so on. Now they want reduction in tariffs. They want a whole host of things. Where does India have room for these kind of for tweaking these kind of tariffs to get the likes of Tesla to set shop into the country?
So Mr. Trump is saying you come invest in America and it's very fine. He's inviting even China. So
Yeah.
on the similar lines, India issued its EV policy where we say if you invest this much, we can allow
Hmm.
you low tariff imports. So
Hmm.
our EV policy was that, and some companies applied from here and there. Tesla
Hmm.
didn't apply for that. So
Hmm.
if we agree to cut tariffs, we have to cut tariff for everyone, or we are going to cut
Hmm.
tariff only for Tesla. We have never
Hmm.
done that for one company. Of course, we can say,
Hmm.
okay, we are cutting tariff for US. That can be done through an FTA, but
Hmm.
then we'll be totally trashing our EV policy. It has to be modified.
Hmm.
So we
Hmm.
have to think. And one more thing, I am not clear right now. How much of a Tesla, how much of a Tesla contains the Chinese inputs? We
Hmm.
have to be very
Right.
clear about this.
Right. I want to ask you about the future of WTO, Mr. Srivastav, because if reciprocal tariffs are imposed, then it's going against the WTO rules, and the way Mr. Trump has been going about it, it does seem like he's raising questions on the whole institution of WTO to regulate trade. So, what are the options for India? Can we ask the US to opt out of WTO so that India can continue to trade with the other countries? Because if rules are going to be rewritten like this, or as per every country, it just makes for a very complicated world to trade with.
No, no. Why should India ask US to walk out? It's up to the US, a sovereign nation, to take decision whether to walk out or to stay home. And
Hmm.
WTO has been weakened, and it has been weakened by many countries, but mostly weakened by the USA. And
Hmm.
it's a sovereign nation. We can advise them to stay or walk out. Their engagement with not only WTO but most of the bodies is very minimal. They walked out of the WHO climate summit. They walked out of the Paris Accord. So WTO
Hmm.
also it's dysfunctional now. So it's a new set of economy that's emerging, where global value chains, which led our trade from say $100 billion in 1950 to $33 trillion now, they will be disrupted. For example, if you are located in US and you want to buy some machine, you will
Hmm.
contact the person who supplies the high quality machine at the cheapest rate. No, you will see which country is that manufacturer. If US is charging high tariffs, then okay, let's change the supplier. So global value chain principles will be changed. Now
Hmm.
it will be tariffs will be ruling the roost. People were in the global value chain, people were making parts and components with 2-3% value addition. Now if you are charging 25% tariffs, all those manufacturing activity will go down. And
Hmm.
I think this will benefit China in a big way, because China is the leader in manufacturing. Other
Hmm.
countries, say ASEAN countries and many other countries who are making small bits and pieces or the components of the things, it will become largely unviable if tariffs are imposed, and things will gradually gravitate towards China. So China will become stronger out of this.
Hmm. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Hmm. How about the India-US FTA, Mr. Srivastav? Should India be pushing for that? Does what does India have to gain from this?
India should take a call only after taking what happens to reciprocal tariff. They are due in
Hmm.
April, I hear, and
Hmm.
let's see what they do with that. And then only if there is a need, we should go ahead. If there is no need, it's possible that we may feel there is no need at all now.
Hmm.
So right now, I cannot say it's good or bad. I say wait. There is no hurry. Wait for the Trump's tariff. It's not a
Hmm.
physical war. No army is attacking you. There's all the
Hmm.
time, and
Hmm.
wait for it. Let them act. We
Hmm.
should uh, we should react at leisure.
Hmm. From an export point of view, Mr. Srivastava, what's your outlook for this year? Because there are concerns that are being raised, and also I wanted to get your thoughts in on, is it the end of globalization as we know it? Because not only the US, every country is talking about raised barriers and so on, and uh, what kind of an economic order do you see going forward?
So real world is very different. Suppose I
Hmm.
am an exporter and importer, and I don't watch news. I don't read newspapers. Then
Hmm.
my
Right.
world remains almost the same as it was 5 years back. Most of
Okay.
these things are being talked. Still, most of the world trade follows the WTO rules, WTO tariffs countries follow. US did this in 2017-18. They started all this tariff war, and basically they lost their trade deficit increased by more than $750 billion in the past in between 2017 and 23. They lost that war, and this time they will be losing in a big time. So as an exporter and importer for rest of the countries, the trade goes on as usual, even with the US, because US is buying more. Whatever they say, they are buying more.
Hmm.
So countries are selling more to them. So if we
Hmm.
forget about the narratives, the news, the newspapers, then trade is improving and trade is going up.
Okay. And what are exporters right now feeling? Are they feeling anxious? Are they excited? What's the sense from them, from the exporter community?
We scare them. If they watch too much TV or too much news, then they
Hmm.
will be feeling it's end of the world. No, 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 no. Even in the last tariff war, even though Mr.
Hmm.
Trump has imposed tariffs, US bought more from the world.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
I
Even
am
the
totally
right.
optimistic. I am totally optimistic. If US cannot make most of the pharmaceuticals, most of the medicines, even for
Hmm.
many types of cough syrups it
Hmm.
imports, those needs will remain there, whatever leadership talks. And
Hmm.
people who are making it in different countries, they will continue supplying. So trade, I
Okay.
don't think much will happen
So
on
you
trade.
don't,
Of
you
course,
don't
it will
see
be
an impact. You don't
reduced.
see an
Yes.
impact. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Srivastav, for putting this into perspective. I think that would be very comforting, not only for the exporters to hear, but also for Indians, actually, because export is such a big sector of the economy. It drives growth, it brings in money into the country. So thank you very much, for sharing your thoughts, and a big thank you to all our viewers for tuning in, and to all our listeners as well. Please leave us your thoughts, comments, and feedback in the comment section below. Thanks so much for watching.
Thank
Thank you.
you.